Hey guys, welcome back. So after one of the roughest major updates Star Citizen has seen in recent memory, Alpha 4.9 is finally here and live. Unlike previous patches that tried to push huge new features or groundbreaking technology, 4.9 has a very different goal. Cloud Imperium shifted its priority after the rocky launch of 4.8 to say the least, delaying several larger features so the team could focus on improving the core gameplay experience. So today, we're not just looking at what's new in 4.9. The biggest question is, did CIG actually deliver the stability patch they've been talking about or not? We'll cover what changed, the brand new Greycat Basher, what the community is saying so far, and at the end I want to hear your experience because this patch's success really depends on whether players are finally spending more time playing the game instead of fighting it or not. So let's jump in. So before we even talk about the new content, it's important to understand why this patch exists. Alpha 4.8 introduced some fantastic ideas, but for many players, the actual gameplay experience simply didn't hold up. Server performance was inconsistent, mission chains frequently broke, hangars sometimes failed to function correctly, and of course, the freight elevators were not working properly. Players reported inventory issues, elevator refusing to cooperate, AI behaving unpredictably, and a variety of bugs that could quickly turn an existing session into a frustrating one. Over the month that followed, one message kept appearing across Reddit, Spectrum, YouTube comments, and pretty much every Star Citizen discussion. Players weren't asking for another shiny feature, they wanted the game to simply work, quoting unquoting, fix the game or make it playable first. To CIG's credit, they acknowledged those concerns and shifted development priorities instead of rushing more headline features into 4.9. The studio focused on addressing a large number of gameplay issues while pushing several larger initiatives into future updates. Whether that's enough, well, that's exactly what we're here to find out. Although stability is the headline, 4.9 still introduces plenty of new content. Players can expect new mission opportunities, improvement to combat gameplay, quality of life changes, updated AI behaviors, new weapons and equipment, additional customization options, and numerous bug fixes throughout the persistent universe. Several combat systems have received balancing adjustments, while various gameplay interactions have been refined to make everyday activities feel smoother. Audio improvements, visual polish, NPC updates, and countless smaller fixes all contribute toward making the verse feel a little bit more alive than before. This isn't the type of update that's built around one massive feature. Instead, it's dozens and dozens of improvements that hopefully add up to a significantly better overall experience. Sometimes those are the updates that end up making the biggest differences. One thing I've found interesting is that the overall reaction has been mixed, but with a noticeable thread of optimism. A lot of players are genuinely relieved to see CIG putting more emphasis on stability, bug fixing, and core gameplay instead of only adding new features. For many, that feels like the right direction to take, and it's something the community has been asking for a long time. At the same time, there's still a healthy amount of skepticism and frustration. Some players are saying they want to see actual results before getting excited, especially given how many times Star Citizen has promised improvements that didn't fully stick. Others are pointing out that even when a patch improves one area, it can still introduce new bugs in somewhere else in the game. So the reaction isn't really pure optimism, and it's not outright negativity either. It's more of a split response. Hope from players who want the game to finally stabilize and will just have to wait and see and play the patch and see if it's actually stable or not, and caution from players who have been burned before many times. A lot of the comments boil down to the same idea. This sounds promising, but the real test is whether the servers, missions, and core systems actually hold up. People aren't just looking for promises anymore. They're looking for consistent missions, reliable servers, working elevators most importantly, stable hangars, and responsive AI. And a game that simply lets them play without constantly wondering what's going to break next or working the workarounds constantly. If 4.9 delivers that, it could end up being one of the most important updates Star Citizen has released in years, and I would argue that it's a pivot in the project as a whole, especially after the state of how 4.8 was released and handled. Now let's talk about the biggest new ship arriving with Alpha 4.9, the Greycat Basher. If you remember the ship, you'll definitely recognize the same design philosophy. Nothing about this ship is clean by any stretch of the imagination. Nothing feels factory fresh. Instead, it embraces a kit-bashed aesthetic that looks as though someone spent years collecting scrap from destroyed spacecrafts before welding everything together into a functioning ship. They've also stated that some of the components were inspired by ships like the Buccaneer, the Gladius, the Aurora, and even the Avenger Titan mixed throughout the hull. Instead of polished panels, you'll find rust, exposed wiring, bolted on metal plates, improvised repairs. Even the weapon rack is literally built from broken fences, while the personal storage resembles an old filing cabinet that's somehow been integrated into the ship. It's easily one of the most unique visual styles Star Citizen has ever produced. This ship is unique in its design. Even though it shares a lot of the design language with the ship, I think it looks cool personally. Despite looking like something assembled inside a scrapyard, the Basher is absolutely serious when it comes to combat. This is a dedicated light fighter that sacrifices almost everything in exchange for offensive capability. It comes equipped with 6 size 2 weapon hardpoints alongside 2 missile launchers. Importantly, those weapons aren't exclusive to the ship. Players can swap them out for other size 2 options depending on their preferred loadout. On paper, 6 guns sounds ridiculous, but there's an important trade-off. Because they're size 2 weapons, each individual gun isn't overwhelmingly powerful on its own. Instead, the Basher relies on sustained damage output and keeping a constant pressure on its target rather than delivering huge alpha strikes. It's clearly designed for aggressive pilots who enjoy staying glued to their opponent throughout an entire dogfight. Now, of course, that much firepower comes with some major compromises. The Basher is significantly smaller than most other light fighters currently available, which isn't technically a compromise because it could fit in so many other ships. It is closer to the size of the Merlin than any other ship. That tiny profile makes it surprisingly difficult to hit as well, but it also has extremely low durability, meaning it could die very easily. This isn't the kind of ship that can absorb punishment. One mistake or one poorly timed maneuver, one missed dodge, and you'll probably be looking at the insurance screen or try to fix the ship. CIG described the Basher as a ship that rewards pilot skill above everything else. The better your awareness, your positioning, and your maneuvering, the more dangerous the Basher becomes. But if you rely on armor to save you, this definitely isn't the ship for you. One of the more interesting details about the Basher is how much personality CIG packed into the interior, which is the cockpit. The cockpit feels improvised rather than manufactured, with exposed wiring, patched materials, and a layout that fits the ship's scrapyard identity. Even getting inside is a little unusual. Instead of a clean standard entry setup, the ship uses a more makeshift approach that matches the rest of its design. I have a small pet peeve on this way that you enter the ship. They said that the way you enter the ship is because it was damaged in the area near the cockpit, and so you get up through the damaged area or the damaged section in order to get into the ship, which they've taken the animation from another ship. However, my pet peeve is this breaks the immersion a tiny bit because it doesn't make sense that all the Bashers have the same exact damage in the same exact area for all the pilots of the Basher gets into the ship the same way. I would rather have the damage be a story to tell based on what the player was dealing with. So this breaks the immersion a little bit, but this is really inconsequential whatsoever. It was just my personal pet peeve. I thought to share this with you. Anyways, it is a small touch, but it helps sell the idea that it isn't a polished military craft. It's a fighter built for whatever parts were available, and that makes it stand out without needing a massive amount of explanation. Now, another thing I thought about when looking at this ship is crafting. Will we be able to craft certain parts of a ship in the future and then combine it together to make a larger ship? That would be very cool. However, I don't think they're going to do that at all. But it would be cool to have, you have the parts for different parts of the ship which you can manufacture. It doesn't have to be like a complete ship with all the materials available. You can just literally make a ship, if that makes sense. That would be very cool if it was available in crafting. Now, for the big real question, is Alpha 4.9 actually the stability update we've all been waiting for? Well, this is where you come in. This is where thousands of players doing cargo runs, bounty hunting, mining, salvaging, and simply existing in the persistent universe will reveal whether these improvements truly hold up under pressure or do they crumble once there are a lot of people in the game. Because no amount of PTU testing compares to what actually happens once the entire community jumps into the live servers. If the servers remain stable, if missions complete reliably, if AI behaves properly, and if players spend more time playing than relogging, then 4.9 could end up being remembered as the patch that helped restore confidence in CIG's direction, and it would help the game pivot into the right direction that personally I think it was not going in a good direction for a while now. So it's good to see them doing that. But if not, then there's clearly still plenty of work ahead. Now with that said, not all the stability features and the bug fixes are coming in 4.9. This is just the beginning of a longer stretch of trying to make the game as stable and as functional as possible. But it's a beginning nonetheless, and we all have to test it thoroughly. So with that said, what do you guys think? Have you tried the Basher yet? And are you seeing any stability in the patch, or are you seeing the same bugs coming over and over again? Let me know in the comments below. But if you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. I cover Star Citizen news, leaks, updates, analysis, and gameplay and more. Hit that notification bell as well so you don't miss another video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the verse.